All right, today we're going to talk about routine weather reports, also known as Metars. So let's get into it. So what is a Metar? A Metar is a routine weather report of observed weather. It's issued hourly and it's valid for 1 hour or until the next Metar is published. What is a Metar? So a specie is a special report that can be issued at any time to update the Metar for any significant weather changes or other critical information. Now, why are these Metars important? So, 91-103 pre-flight action requires all pilots flying outside of the airport to become familiar with all available information concerning the flight. So, besides the fact that understanding Metars is required by the FAA, Metars serve as valuable tools to pilots. You know what I mean? So, these Metars help pilots increase their situational awareness. They help pilots create safer go or no-go decisions. They help pilots also identify their personal minimums and help them stick to them. And honestly, Metars are just they're really valuable tools for pilots. You know what I mean? Understanding weather is such a critical aspect of being a safe and a smart pilot. So, cracking the code. These Metars are not easy to decode at first. I'll tell you that right now. I like to think these Metars as the scientific method, because the way in which you kind of have to go about it is similar to me. So that's how I always like to think about them. Similar like almost as if they're cousins, because the process is almost alike. So the process in which you decode a Metar is almost like reading a book. You know what I mean? The first step is where's the Metar located, the station identifier. Second is when it was published, the date and time. Third, the wind velocity. Fourth, the visibility. Fifth, the present weather conditions. Sixth, the sky conditions. Don't get those two confused because those are separate. Seventh, the temperature. Eighth, the dew point. Ninth, the altimeter setting. And then 10th, remarks. So sometimes there's going to be remarks, sometimes there's not going to be any remarks at the end. But we'll get into it on the next slide. So this is what a Metar can look like. It's not going to look like this all the time, but this is just to help you guys break it down. So if you want to screenshot this and pause it, maybe, and write down, the steps in which it's broken down into, that would be a good idea. So as you can see, the type of report, it's going to show either a Metar or a specie. Like we said before, a specie is, for any changes to, the Metar previous. The station identifier, you can see it's OKC, the date and time. And we'll read this all in the next slide. But this is just the format in which that Metars are, created. So the date and time, it goes the day of the month. So the first day of the month is 01. The first day of that month, this Metar was published. And then it's the time. So 1955 Zulu is the time in which it was published. So 011955 Z means on the first day of the month at 1955 Zulu, this Metar was published. The report, just auto report. Sometimes that could change. It could be auto for its automated. COR means it's corrected for any changes. And like I said, we'll get into that in the next slides. And then the wind velocity. So this one it looks confusing, but I promise you, it's with practice, it's not. 220 is the degree that the wind is located, right? So at the 220 degree, the wind was 15 knots, gusting 25. So 15G is the 15 knots. 25 is the gusting. So it's gusting up to 25 knots. The 180V250 means that the wind is varying. So from the 180th degree to the 250th degree, that wind is going to be shifting between those two degrees. And then the visibility is always in statute miles, so it's 3/4 statute miles. The visibility, the runway visual range, so that's when you're lined up on the runway, ready to go, ready to take off, and that's how far you can see going, going forward. So you read this just like you would read a book from left to right. So on runway 17 left, the runway visual range is 2,600 feet. So that's how far that you can see. And then the present weather, we'll get into that once I show you guys the weather phenomenon chart. The sky condition, you can see how the present weather and the sky condition, the light green and the turquoise, they're two different things. I don't know if it's a mistake that's made a lot, but I know for sure that I like to, when I first started reading Metars, I like to combine those two, and that's not right. So make sure you always separate those two. Then the temperature and dew point, 18 degrees Celsius, and the dew point is 16 degrees. Then the altimeter setting, 29.92. You read the first two numbers, and then period, and then the second two numbers. That's how I like to think of it as. And then the remarks, AO2, and then, well, like I said, we'll get into this on the next slide. So just keep this format in the back of your mind. So here's a chart of all the weather phenomenon, the different descriptors, the types of intensities and obscurations, all those type of things that that are going to be on the Metar that help you decide if it's a good day to fly or if it's a bad day to fly. Like we said before with the go or no go decision. So it wouldn't be bad to pause this video or take a screenshot of this, because we're going to be doing some practice ones. And I want you guys to, not be lost and have that with you. So screenshot this and we're going to move on. All right. So this is a practice Metar. At the bottom, you can obviously see it looks like it's, a different language, and it almost is. But don't let this intimidate you or, set you back or anything like that. So we'll get right into it. So we're going to follow this left side, the one chart that we looked at before, the format of the Metars, how you read it left to right. So we start off with the type of Metar. It doesn't say speci, so it's a normal type of Metar. It's a routine Metar. So the station identifier is KBLV. Many times you're going to have to look up the station identifier, if you're not familiar with that airport. For this one, I know that it's the St. Louis airport. So that's the station identifier. Then we move on to the date and time. So like we said before, the first two numbers are the day of the month. So the first day of the month that it was published at 16:57 Zulu is when this Metar was issued. It's an auto report. Then we have our winds again. So like we said before, it goes direction and then it goes velocity. So 250 degrees, there's 15 knots of wind gusting to 30. Then again, we have our variable or our varying wind. So from 210 to 290, the wind can be, any one of those directions. It's varying. And then we have our visibility. We have 3/8 statute miles of visibility. Then we have our runway visual range of 1,000 feet at runway 32 left. And then this is when we get into our weather phenomenon. So the present weather. So you see this FG right here, next to the 1,000 feet in the second line. The FG, if we look in our right corner of the descriptions in the weather phenomenon, we can see that FG is fog. So FG stands for fog. So there's fog reported over the St. Louis airport. BKN stands for the sky condition, right? So the sky condition, like I said before, is different from the present weather. So BKN stands for broken. So there's a broken cloud layer at 500 feet. And the cloud layer and the sky condition is always reported in AGL. So that's something that you should, note. Because before I like to think of it as MSL, and that's not right. It's AGL. So there's a broken cloud layer of 500 feet, AGL. Then we have our temperature and dew point. Our temperature is 1 degree Celsius, and our dew point is -1. So you see the M, that stands for minus. Kind of self-explanatory. Then the altimeter, we have 29.84 inches of mercury, like we said before. First 2 digits, period, second 2 digits. So 29.84. Now we have our remarks. Sometimes there's not going to be a remark section, in your Metar. So if you don't see it, don't like freak out, So, but for this practice one, there is a remark section. So we'll read the remarks. It says AO2, SLP 034. So the AO2 is the precipitation identifier. So at this station, they have technology in which they can determine if it's snow or if it's hail, rain. They can just distinguish between which types of precipitation that's being encountered. Then the sea level pressure, the SLP. At first, this was kind of confusing for me, but the SLP stands for the sea level pressure. In the 034, you want to get closest to 1,000. So you want to add either a 10 or a 9 to the front. So if we were to add a 10 to 034, it would be, 1,003.4. And that's how you want to read the sea level pressure. It's kind of confusing. And honestly, the sea level pressure isn't, critical information for private pilots. All right, we're going to do the second one. I'm going to give you time to, pause this and see if you can decode it on your own. And then, we'll get back together. All right, so hopefully you pause it. We're gonna read it just like how we read the previous ones. So there's no special Metar. There's no anything different in the type of report. So it's a normal Metar. It's a routine Metar. The station identifier is KMIA. So you could probably take a guess and you would know that that's Miami. So at the Miami airport, the wind is my fault. The date and time. So, the 22nd day of the month, this Metar was issued at 0853 Zulu. The wind is 130 at 3 knots. So, at 130 degrees, the wind was 3 knots. So, it's a pretty chill day. The visibility is 10 statute miles. The sky condition is few clouds at 3,000 feet. And we have another cloud layer of scattered clouds at 6,000 feet. And the temperature is 23 degrees Celsius and the dew point is 16 degrees. Then the altimeter setting is 30.10. The remarks is that precipitation identifier that just lets us know that they have that technology at that station identifier. Then the sea level pressure is 1019.4. Like we said before, you want to get as close as you can to 1,000, either by adding 10 in front of the number or 9 in front of the number. So in this case, we added 10 because that gets us closer to 1,000 as, compared to if we put a 9. And now this money sign, this dollar sign, this one really threw me for a loop the first time I saw it, and I had to look it up. But yeah, so this money sign, this just means that the station in which this Metar was reported from needs some type of maintenance. The money sign I like to think of as if they need to put money into it to fix it. So that just means that something at that station needs to be fixed. All right, we're going to do this next one. I'm pretty sure this is the last one. Same thing, reading it as if it's a book, left to right. So KDSM stands for the Des Moines, Iowa International Then we have the date and the time. So 22nd day of the month at 0854 Zulu, this Metar was published and issued. Like we said before, these Metars are valid for 1 hour or until the next Metar is published, or obviously if there's any species that are updated, or if it's corrected for any changes or issues. Then we have our wind velocity. So 330 is the degree, and then 7 knots is the speed. Then we have our 10 statute miles of visibility. So it's a good day to obviously see. There's no like obscurations or anything like that. Then we have a broken cloud layer at 2,100 feet. We have an overcast layer at 2,700 feet. And like we said before, this is the sky condition. The BKN stands for broken, OVC stands for overcast, and we'll get into that in a different lesson. But just remember that those two are different. Then we have our temperature and dew point. Our temperature is -4. Our dew point is -7. Then our altimeter setting is 30.32 inches of mercury. Then our remark section, like we said before, many times, well, not many times, but sometimes you may not have a remark section. So if you don't see it in your Metar, don't freak out. We have our AO2 that just tells us that, this station has that, technology to distinguish between different types of precipitation. Then we have our sea level pressure, and I'll let you guys figure this one out. So we want to get as close as we can to 1,000. So would we add a 9 or would we add a 10 in front of the 278? Right, okay, exactly. We would add a 10 because that gets us closest to 1,000. And you would put the decimal after the 7. So always after the second digit. All right, that's really it. That's really how the Metar functions, and that's how it's supposed to be, decoded and read. These Metars and reading these charts is not easy. I'll tell you that right now. But, keep practicing. Don't give up on it. I remember the first time I read a Metar, and I thought like I'll never be able to like understand this, But just keep practicing. You'll be able to figure it out. You'll be able to, read it, and with practice comes, like, nobody's going to be perfect, but you're going to be so, like, comfortable. You're going to get more comfortable reading this and decoding these Metars. But a word of advice, there's a lot of sneaky, remarks. Like, in the remarks section, they can add a lot of, different, like, verbiage that many people aren't necessarily comfortable with. So, like, learning and reading those different remarks and those different descriptions is a really useful tool that pilots should be able to be comfortable with. What else is also important? Oh, also, so here's a different list of the different remarks that you can see. It looks confusing, and it honestly kind of is, but like I said, keep practicing, keep getting yourself comfortable with it and familiar with it, and before you know it, you'll be a pro. Also, with the descriptions, they can be combined to make one description. So let me go back. Let's see. All right, so with our weather phenomenon, like drizzle and hail, that could be combined. You see the DZ and the GR. Like that could be combined to DZGR, and you could see that in your weather phenomenon. At the top, you see light, the little hyphen, and then the no sign equals the moderate, and then the plus sign equals a heavy, and that's the intensity of that weather. So let's say it was light blowing sand, so if that was the case, you would see on the weather phenomenon part, it would be the hyphen BLSA. So you would read it just as if it was broken up into different sections. So that's something that's important, that, if you see, like a long weather phenomenon, don't be intimidated by it. Just know like it's a lot going on in that area. So, keep practicing. Hope you guys found this useful, and yeah. Talk to you guys later.